Introduction. When Evil Lurks, or Cuando acecha la maldad, is a 2023 Argentine supernatural horror film directed by Demian Rugna, the mind behind the critically acclaimed Aterrados, Terrified 2017. This movie delves deep into themes of primordial evil, exploring the harrowing consequences of demonic possession, ancient rituals, and the unrelenting horror that overtakes rural, isolated communities. It stands as a quintessential example of psychological horror, building tension through its atmospheric storytelling, rather than relying on cheap jump scares or over-the-top special effects. The movie sets itself apart by focusing on the everyday lives of people living in a rural community, who suddenly find themselves caught in the path of malevolent forces. These villagers are connected to traditions and superstitions deeply embedded in their culture, and as the story unfolds, they must confront forces they have only heard about in legends. The movie is as much about the consequences of human error and secrets as it is about supernatural terror. Setting and characters. The film takes place in a small, secluded rural village in Argentina, far removed from the hustle and bustle of urban society. The villagers live simple lives, focused on farming and community traditions passed down through generations. They are used to working the land and relying on each other for support. Their seemingly quiet and peaceful existence is disrupted when strange occurrences begin to unfold. At the heart of the story are two brothers, Pedro, Ezequiel Rodriguez, and Jimmy, Demian Salomon. Pedro is the more rational and skeptical of the two, pragmatic and unwilling to believe in the superstitions that many of the villagers hold dear. Jimmy, on the other hand, is more emotionally attuned to the land and the community, often leaning into the belief that there are forces beyond their control at play. The contrast between the brothers is central to the unfolding narrative, as they are forced to confront a reality that neither of them is fully prepared for. The ominous beginning. A foul stench and a disturbing discovery. The film opens with an unsettling atmosphere, an air of unease hanging over the village. The first signs of trouble appear subtly, as villagers notice strange occurrences around the community. There is a distinct, foul stench permeating the air, a harbinger of the evil to come. This odor is associated with something far more sinister than they could initially comprehend. Pedro and Jimmy's lives take a sharp turn when they come across a mutilated animal carcass deep in the forest, far from any human activity. The animal's body is grotesquely disfigured, and its death is clearly unnatural. At first, they try to rationalize the event, chalking it up to wild animals or natural predators. However, as more animals are found dead and mutilated in the days that follow, the two brothers realize that this is no ordinary situation. As Pedro and Jimmy investigate, they hear whispers among the villagers about a cursed land and an old evil that has been dormant for many years, but is now reawakening. The atmosphere becomes increasingly tense as the community begins to suspect that something much more dangerous is lurking just beneath the surface. An ominous visit, the possession of Uriel. The tension escalates when Pedro and Jimmy learn of a family living on the outskirts of the village who have been keeping a deadly secret. Uriel, a member of this family, is suffering from what can only be described as a demonic possession. His condition has worsened over the years, and the family has tried to hide him from the rest of the community, fearful of what might happen if the possession were to be discovered. Uriel's body is in a grotesque state, emaciated, with his skin discolored and marked by festering wounds. He is bedridden, chained, and constantly writhing in pain. The family reveals that they have been following traditional rituals and consulting with an exorcist to try and rid Uriel of the demon that has taken over him, but nothing seems to work. The demon's hold over Uriel is growing stronger, and the family is desperate. Pedro and Jimmy are horrified by what they see, but they are also desperate to find a solution. They begin asking around the village for help, but the community is divided. Some believe that the only way to rid the village of the evil is through a traditional exorcism ritual, while others argue that they should distance themselves from Uriel and his family to avoid the demon's wrath. The first signs of evil spreading. Despite their initial efforts to contain the situation, the evil begins to spread. The demonic presence that has taken over Uriel is not limited to him alone. Soon, the village animals, and even some of the villagers themselves, begin to exhibit strange and violent behavior. Cattle are found dead and disfigured. similar to the animal Pedro and Jimmy first encountered. Crops begin to wither mysteriously, and the land, once fertile, seems cursed. Pedro, still the rational skeptic, tries to find logical explanations for what is happening. He considers the possibility of disease or contamination affecting both the animals and the land. However, Jimmy is more open to the idea that something supernatural is at play. He recalls old stories told by the elders of the village, warning of a time when a great evil would return to claim the souls of the innocent. As the days go by, the behavior of the villagers becomes more erratic. Some become violently ill, while others start to act as if they are possessed themselves, muttering incoherent words, attacking their neighbors, and even self-mutilating. The once tight-knit community is now fracturing, with fear and paranoia taking over. People begin to turn on one another, suspicious of who might be possessed or influenced by the demon. The exorcism ritual, desperation, and failure. Realizing that the situation is escalating, the brothers turn to an old exorcist who lives on the outskirts of the village. This exorcist, who is reluctant to get involved, explains that the type of evil they are dealing with is ancient and cannot easily be banished. He warns them that if the demon is not contained, it will spread and destroy not only the village, but potentially everything in its path. Despite the exorcist's warnings, the villagers in a state of desperation decide to go through with a traditional exorcism ritual in an attempt to rid Uriel of the demon once and for all. The ceremony is intricate and involves the entire community. People gather in the village square, holding candles, reciting prayers, and performing various acts meant to purify the land and the people. However, the ritual goes horribly wrong. As the exorcist tries to cast out the demon, Uriel's body convulses violently. The demon, instead of being expelled, seems to gain more power from the ritual. In a climactic and terrifying scene, Uriel's body begins to break apart, as though the demon inside him is tearing him apart from within. What follows is pure chaos. The ritual backfires, and the demonic presence that had been contained within Uriel is unleashed, spreading rapidly to other villagers. It becomes clear that the demon was never confined to just one host. It had already infiltrated the village long before the ritual even began. Chaos unleashed. The possession spreads like a plague. The aftermath of the failed exorcism is catastrophic. The village is now fully under the influence of the demonic force. Possession spreads like a plague, and soon, not just Uriel, but multiple villagers are taken over by the evil entity. Some are consumed by madness, attacking their families or wandering into the wilderness. Others succumb to horrifying transformations, their bodies contorting and twisting into grotesque forms as the demon takes full control. Even animals are not spared. Dogs, cattle, and other livestock become violent, turning on their owners and attacking anything in their path. The once quiet village is now a battleground, with the remaining villagers struggling to survive against the onslaught of demonic horrors. Pedro and Jimmy find themselves in the middle of this chaos, unsure of how to fight back. Pedro, still trying to maintain a grip on reality, becomes increasingly desperate. He tries to lead the remaining unpossessed villagers to safety, but with the demon's power growing, there seems to be no escape. Meanwhile, Jimmy begins to succumb to despair, realizing that the evil they are facing is far beyond anything they can comprehend. The brothers' journey, confronting the past. As the village falls into complete disarray, Pedro and Jimmy begin to uncover disturbing truths about their family's history. They learn that their ancestors were involved in a dark pact with an ancient evil force long ago. This pact, made in secret, was meant to protect the village from harm in exchange for sacrifices. However, the pact was broken many years ago, and the consequences of that broken promise are now coming back to haunt them. The brothers' journey becomes not just a physical fight for survival, but an emotional and spiritual one as well. Pedro, once the rational one, begins to accept that the supernatural is real and that he must face the legacy of his family's actions. Jimmy, more sensitive to the village's traditions, is devastated by the knowledge that their family's sins are the root cause of the village's suffering. The climactic showdown, sacrifice, and survival. The film builds to a climactic showdown between the brothers and the demonic force. With the village in ruins and most of the population either dead or possessed, Pedro and Jimmy realize that their only option is to confront the demon directly. Armed with knowledge from ancient texts and guided by the old exorcist, They prepare for a final confrontation. The showdown takes place in the village's church, a crumbling structure that has long been abandoned. It is here that the demon has made its final stand, possessing the bodies of multiple villagers at once. The brothers, along with a few remaining survivors, attempt to perform one last ritual to banish the demon for good. In a heart-wrenching twist, it becomes clear that the only way to defeat the demon is through sacrifice. One of the brothers must offer their life in order to seal the demon back into the underworld. The decision is agonizing, but in the end, Pedro steps forward, choosing to sacrifice himself to save his brother and what's left of the village. As Pedro performs the ritual, the demon resists violently, tearing through the church and attempting to possess everyone in its path. But with his final act of sacrifice, Pedro succeeds in banishing the demon. The village is left in ruins, but the surviving villagers, including Jimmy, are free from the demonic plague. Conclusion: the aftermath. When Evil Lurks concludes on a somber note, the village, once a peaceful and close-knit community, is now a shadow of its former self. Many lives have been lost, and the land is still scarred from the demon's influence. Jimmy, now the last surviving member of his family, must come to terms with what has happened. The film ends with Jimmy walking through the ruins of the village, reflecting on the events that transpired. While the immediate threat is gone, there is a lingering sense of unease. The evil may have been banished for now, but the movie leaves the audience with the haunting question: can true evil ever be completely eradicated, or does it simply lie in wait, ready to strike again when least expected? When Evil Lurks is a deeply unsettling horror film that explores the themes of guilt, sacrifice, and the cyclical nature of evil. Through its atmospheric tension, complex characters, and chilling supernatural elements, it delivers a horror experience that lingers long after the credits roll. Thanks for watching this extended recap of When Evil Lurks. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and share it with fellow horror fans. And don't forget to subscribe to Minute Recaps for more in-depth breakdowns of your favorite movies. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let us know in the comments which film you'd like us to recap next. See you in the next one.